Welcome back, my wonderful fans. This is part 2 of our previous story. A millionaire took a homeless woman to his ex-fiancée's wedding, and what she did shocked everyone. Obinna sat on the edge of his bed, staring at nothing. His eyes were red. Not from crying. From thinking too much. Thinking about her. Thinking about Zara. She had walked away after the wedding. Disappeared into the crowd. And never came back. He tried to find her. Every street. Every corner. Called people. Paid people. But nothing. Not even a name. It was like she had never existed. The house was clean. The glass windows sparkled. The walls were painted white and gold. Everything in the penthouse looked perfect. But inside Obinna's heart, it was empty. Cold. Still. Outside, rain hit the glass. It had been raining all night. The kind of rain that made the city feel small. Like it was hiding something. Then, at exactly 3:03 a.m., it happened. A sound. Not thunder. Not a phone. Just a knock. Soft. Only once. Then gone. Obinna stood still for a moment. Then walked to the door. He opened it slowly. No one was there. The hallway was dark. Quiet. But something was lying on the floor. A small brown box. He picked it up. It had no name. No tape. No handwriting on the outside. Just a plain box. He took it inside. Placed it on the table. Stared at it for a while. Then he opened it. Inside, a cassette recorder. Old. And a folded paper. He opened the paper with shaking hands. The message was written in red ink. Not typed. Not neat. It said, "If you truly want to know, press play." His hands paused over the recorder. He didn't know what to expect. A threat? A warning? A goodbye? Still, he pressed play. The recorder clicked. Then hissed. For a moment, nothing came. Then, her voice. Soft. Slow. Steady. Zara. She was alive. The recorder hissed. The sound was old, scratchy, like wind blowing through dry leaves. Obinna leaned closer. His fingers stayed on the edge of the table, tense and stiff, his breathing held tight inside his chest. Then came her voice. Not loud. Not shaky. Just calm. Slow. But behind that calmness was something deeper. Something wounded. Something broken. She said she wasn't sure anymore if he was the man she once thought he was. But she said someone had to know. Someone had to hear what she had kept locked inside her chest for too long. Someone had to know what had happened to the girls. She spoke of a house in Houston. Not on maps. Not on GPS, hidden between two old factories and a line of dead trees. A place where no one smiled. No one laughed. A place full of fake promises and real pain. She said the girls were brought there with hopes in their hearts. Hopes for jobs. Hopes for safety. Hopes to be free. But what they found instead was darkness. Screaming behind locked doors. Hands that hurt. Eyes that watched. Men who never spoke, but did terrible things. One of those girls was named Grace Okoro. Zara said her name like a prayer. Like a memory too heavy to carry but too important to forget. Grace was smart. Grace was strong. Grace was the only one who still believed they could get out. That someone would come. That someone would save them. But Grace never left that house. She didn't survive. They said she slipped in the bathroom. But Zara's voice lowered when she said that. Like she was hiding something. Or maybe afraid to say it. She said Grace had seen something. Something she wasn't supposed to see. And after that, she was gone. Zara said she escaped. Not because someone saved her, but because one night, during a storm, she broke a window with her own bleeding hands and ran. Ran without shoes. Ran with broken ribs. Ran with nothing but her name. She said she ran until the streets swallowed her. And then she became invisible. Then her voice dropped lower. She began to say names. Softly. As if they could still hear her. As if she was afraid the recorder itself would betray her. She said Dr. Leon? The man who came to the house once a month. The one who said he was doing research, but always asked the girls strange questions and carried syringes in his bag. Then she said Malik? His name didn't need an explanation. And then, last, she said Clarissa? Her voice changed when she said that name. Not angry. Not sad. Just tired. Like someone who finally stopped hoping people were better than they are. Obina's hand moved slightly. It wasn't cold in the room, but he shivered. His fingers went numb as her voice continued. She said if he was listening, that meant they knew she was still alive. That meant time was running out. That meant it had already begun. Then she told him where to start. She said the truth wasn't in the house anymore. The truth was buried. Not in the city. Not in a building. But in a grave. Start with Grace, she said. She's the one they tried to erase. Obina's eyes burned, but he didn't blink. He just listened. Then the tape stopped. No goodbye. No explanation. Just silence. And silence had never sounded so loud. The sky over Houston was gray. Not just from clouds, but from something heavier. The kind of sky that pressed on the earth like a secret no one wanted to tell. Obina walked slowly through the cemetery gates. His black coat dragged in the wind, and his shoes sank slightly in the wet ground. The air smelled like old leaves and forgotten names. He didn't ask for directions. He didn't need to. The letter had said her name. Grace Okoro. He searched row by row, stone by stone. And then he saw it. The grave was small. The stone was cracked. Moss grew along the bottom. The name was barely readable. The tree beside it looked like it was dying too. Its branches hung low, like arms too tired to hold the sky anymore. He stood there. Still. Quiet. The wind brushed past him, but he didn't move. His eyes were on the stone. As if it would speak. As if it could tell him what happened. Minutes passed. Then hours. But he didn't leave. Something about the place felt heavy. Like something was still buried, but not just bones. Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Careful. An old man appeared behind him. Dressed in faded green clothes, a tool belt around his waist. He looked like someone who had seen too much of life and now just cleaned up after it. The man stopped beside him, looked at the grave, then at Obina. Said a girl used to come here every month. Rain or sun. Always alone. Wore no shoes. Never said a word. Just knelt by the grave and cried. Not loud. Just tears. Tears that never asked for help. Tears that knew no one was coming. Obina didn't reply. He didn't have words. His eyes were still on the stone. The old man reached into a plastic bag by his side. Pulled out a small, crumpled envelope. Said he had kept it. Said the girl had left it one night and never came back. He didn't know what it meant, but he didn't throw it away. Obina took the envelope with both hands. It was wet from age. The paper felt like it would tear if he breathed too hard. He opened it carefully. Inside, there was a note. The ink was faded, but the words were still there. Justice doesn't wear robes. Sometimes she walks barefoot through hell. Obina's fingers froze. He read it again. Then again. Then he saw something else at the bottom of the page. A faint line. A scribble. An address. It was almost erased. But it was still there. He folded the note gently and placed it inside his coat. He looked at the grave one last time. The wind picked up and the tree above shivered. Then he turned and walked away. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Like a man who knew he was walking into something he might not return from. The building stood at the edge of East Houston, hidden behind a fence that leaned sideways like it was tired of standing. The windows were dirty. Some broken. The roof sagged. The outside looked dead. But inside, something was still breathing. Not life, but memory. Heavy memory. Memory that never forgot. Obinna pushed open the door. It creaked like it hadn't been used in years. Dust filled the air. The floor groaned under his steps. The place looked like it had been emptied out in a hurry. Chairs turned over. Papers scattered. Walls faded. But on one side of the room, behind a wooden counter, sat a woman. Middle-aged. Worn eyes. She looked up when she heard him walk in. Her face stayed calm until he said her name. Zara. She gasped. Her hands trembled. Her eyes didn't blink. Said she told them never to speak of her again. Said she left without a word. Left like a shadow. No goodbye. No trace. They all thought she had disappeared for good. They thought maybe she had died. Obinna didn't say more. Just asked about Grace. The woman's eyes changed. Not with shock, but sorrow. Like she had been waiting for someone to ask. Maybe praying someone would. She got up slowly. Walked to a cabinet that had been taped shut. Tore it open with her bare hands. Reached deep inside and pulled out a thick folder. The edges were burnt. The pages bent. It smelled like something that had been hidden for too long. Said Zara left it behind. The day she ran. Said she was shaking when she handed it over. Said she begged them not to lose it. Said if anything happened to her, someone must find it. Someone must read it. The folder was heavy in Obinna's hands. Like it carried weight beyond paper. Like the truth inside it had been screaming behind locked walls. He opened it. The first thing he saw were faces. Girls. Young. Too young. Each one staring at the camera with wide, hollow eyes. Some looked sick. Some looked broken. All of them looked like they had already stopped being children. Next came hospital papers. Reports with long words and cold numbers. Notes about tests. Notes about side effects. Notes about silence. Then came receipts. Signed. In bold black ink. Malik Stone. Each one proof. Each one stamped. Each one tied to something no one was supposed to know. And then, at the very back of the folder, taped carefully to the final page, was a flash drive. The tape had yellowed with age, but it held strong. The drive was small. Black. Plain. But on it, in tiny neat handwriting, one line had been written, "Dead girls don't lie." Obinna stood still. The file stayed open in his hands, but his mind had gone somewhere else. The shelter was silent. But not peaceful. It was the silence of a place that once held screams too loud for the world to hear. He closed the folder. And walked out. The doors shut behind him. But the truth had just opened wide. Clarissa Monroe sat alone in her beachfront mansion in Savannah, Georgia. She hadn't left the gates since the wedding fell apart. The press had renamed her the fallen heiress. They posted pictures of her crying behind tinted windows. Some said she ran away. Others said she had been betrayed. But no one knew the truth. Not fully. She spent her days walking from room to room. The lights stayed off. The curtains stayed closed. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Zara. Standing at the altar. Not with a crown. Not with makeup. Not with wealth. Just truth. And a presence that broke the room in half. Clarissa couldn't forget her. Not because of what she did, but because of what she revealed. And because of what Clarissa had chosen to ignore. That night, just after midnight, the wind outside grew stronger. The waves hit the rocks with more force. Something knocked gently on her door. Not with fingers, but like something had been slid beneath it. She walked to the entrance. Slowly. Her robe dragging on the floor. When she opened the door, no one was there. But on the ground, an envelope. She picked it up with shaking hands. It was unmarked. Plain. Thin. She opened it under the chandelier. The light above flickered once. Inside were three things. The first was a photo. Grainy. Faded. but clear enough to hurt. A girl's body. Bruised. Barely covered with a blanket. Her face turned slightly to the side. It was Grace. The second item was a folded paper. A receipt. Emergency abortion services. Signed. Stamped. Paid for. Under the name of a company she had once heard Malik mention. She stared at it for a long time. Like staring would make it change. But it didn't. The last item was a note. Small. But loud. You married your shame. Now wear it. She dropped everything. Her knees hit the floor hard. And then she screamed. But not the kind of scream people hear in movies. This one didn't rise from pain. It rose from truth. The kind that doesn't hit like a slap, but like a slow poison that finally reached the heart. Because deep down, she had heard the rumors. She had heard whispers about Malik's past. His habits. His travels. She had asked questions once. But when the answers got uncomfortable, she stopped. Because her wedding was close. Because her name was on magazines. Because her silence was worth more than someone else's pain. She grabbed her phone. Her hands shaking so much it almost fell. She called him. Obinna answered. Said nothing. Just waited. Her voice was low when she spoke. Broken. Said she didn't know it was this deep. But Obinna's voice wasn't the same as before. It was colder now. Not with hate. But with distance. With disappointment. He said she knew enough to stay silent. And silence kills too. Then he hung up. Clarissa sat on the cold marble floor for a long time. The ocean outside kept moving. But inside, something inside her had finally stopped pretending. The Avalon Theater had once been filled with music, dancing, and cheers. But tonight, it stood alone. The posters were faded. The doors creaked when pushed open. Dust hung in the air like smoke that never cleared. Obinna walked in without a sound. No guards. No driver. No phone. Just the weight of everything he had learned, and the fear of what was still hidden. The air inside was cold. The ceiling high. The stage was dark. Seats broken. Floorboards cracked. Yet he moved forward, each step slower than the last. His heart beat harder with every echo of his shoes. Then the lights on stage blinked once. Then again. Then fully. A soft white glow. And she was there. Zara. Standing alone at the center of the stage. Her hair was shorter. Her frame thinner. Her body still. Her face unreadable. But her eyes, they were different now. Not softer. Sharper. Like she had seen things no one should see. Like she had walked through fire and come out cold. She didn't move when she saw him. She didn't smile. She only raised her hand. And Obinna stopped. Her voice came low. Steady. She said she wasn't safe. And neither was he. Then she stepped closer, pulled something from her coat, a small flash drive wrapped in black cloth. She placed it on the edge of the stage. Her hand lingered on it for a second. Then she let go. She said it wasn't just Malik. Or Dr. Leon. She said the truth went further. Deeper. Above them. A congressman. A board of powerful men. Donors who looked like saints on the outside. But behind closed doors, they funded the pain. Paid to hurt. Paid to watch others get hurt. Paid to stay clean while the dirty work was done in places like Houston. Obinna didn't move. His eyes stayed on hers. She looked tired. But not weak. She looked like someone who had chosen to survive again and again, even when it cost her everything. She asked him if he was ready to die for the truth. She didn't shout it. She didn't cry. She just asked. And then waited. Obinna didn't answer. His mouth didn't open. His feet didn't step back. He just walked to the stage. Picked up the flash drive. Held it in his palm. Then looked at her one last time. No words passed between them. But something did. Something louder than words. And then Zara turned and walked back into the shadows. She didn't look back. She didn't run. She just vanished. The same way she always did. Quiet. Final. Like a page that turns itself. The airport lights were too bright. The halls were wide and full of voices, but they heard none of them. Obinna walked ahead with steady steps. Zara followed beside him, calm and quiet, the same brown dress still hugging her frame like a second skin. Her shoes were plain. Her face was bare. But there was something new in the way she moved. Something fearless. Something final. They didn't speak much as they walked through security. Obinna carried nothing but the flash drive in his pocket. No luggage. No distractions. Just the weight of everything that had happened and the danger of what was still coming. First-class tickets. One way. Destination, Washington, D.C. The plane was quiet. The seats wide and soft. The lights above them dimmed as the engines roared to life. Obinna sat by the window. Zara took the seat beside him. The cabin shook gently as the plane left the ground. The city lights of Atlanta blinked below them like dying stars. The clouds above opened wide, swallowing them whole. Zara leaned toward the window. Her eyes watched the sky. Watched the world move farther beneath them. Her hand rested in her lap. Still. Calm. Obinna turned slightly toward her. His voice low. Almost unsure. He asked her if she was scared. She didn't answer right away. She kept watching the sky. Then slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes met his. Her voice was soft, but strong enough to split the silence. She said she had already lived through death. Now she just wanted to live through truth. Then her hand reached for his. Fingers touched. Held. Just once. Just long enough for warmth to pass between them. Then she let go. The plane kept climbing. And the fire waited ahead. You thought she disappeared. But some ghosts don't vanish. They return, to haunt the liars.